I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here on this, what I believe is probably the best, radio station, not just in the Caribbean. Certainly commend our staff throughout the civil service for their continued diligence. You test their mettle in times like this. Well, we want to hear from you. We want you to engage us. It's going to be open line until 1 p.m. 1 p.m. we have the excellent company of MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris. So we invite you to stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. It is open line here on Talk Today. That means that we would like very much to extend a very personal, special, and deliberate invitation to all of us who are listening to call and share your thoughts. Hey, you may be amenable to a quick opening prayer. And if you find yourself offended by it, I had a good friend, may he now continue to rest in peace, who when we would get together, whether it was, a breakfast or whether it was a full-blown meal of many courses, there would be a few who would say it, collectively, and a few who would say the prayer very silently. He sat there, respectfully, quietly, eyes open, and eventually, even though he never prayed openly, at least his countenance changed noticeably. I say that to say that perhaps some of us call, on our higher power when it is trying times of challenges and tribulations, when we find ourselves against, the wall, as it were, and downtrodden, beat down, can't even find a way forward. Others try to be mindful of, all things give thanks. And I say that to ask, what is in a name? I'm honored and grateful that my parents opted to give me the name that they did. When I heard the name came on and the radio came on, and anything that is synonymous with came on, I would like it to be one that is conveys and has a connotation of respect and respectability. So it's for us to carry it as such. And then we will look at this time in our country, that there are, without question, unprecedented challenges facing our leadership, our political and civic leadership, our business leadership. And I want to ask, in a bit about some of those things, the behaviors that we may be perceiving in our our retail establishments, from potential price increases to, the demonstration of, corporate citizenship that seems to be exemplary, keeping staff on for the foreseeable future, for instance. Or maybe saying, okay, let's see what we can do, take some vacation now and then work it afterwards. Different things. But of course, it depends on a number of things. So, if you are not, of the mind that we should pray, let me ask you to respectfully, accept that there are those of us who do. And if you are mindful of, hey, we should be praying, pray without ceasing, then you'll join me momentarily. But let's go to our phones first. Hey, good afternoon, welcome. Thank you for calling.
Hey, good afternoon, Dwayne.
Afternoon, my good friend. How are you today?
I'm very thankful,
I can see that and share that, and thank you for being so all the best here, man.
Yes. Dwayne, I believe the government has done a a very good job in the decision to close off travel here. I think you can see they've put a lot of thought into it and restrict movements for I think a couple 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very, very good job. There's just one thing I think that it needs to go a little bit further. I don't know. I keep hearing about the self-quarantining for 14 days,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a lot of difficulties in the students coming back from England. I believe every person coming from England to Cayman should be checked at the airport prior to entering into their confined state, and make it mandatory that they're not allowed to come out for 14 days. I don't care who they are. It could be one of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But if you check it out, look at Jamaica. I think it's a couple of the Caribbean countries that have reported that their case will trace back to the UK travel. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it is very much essential. It is very much essential that that is done, because I am a firm belief that according to the many tests that were done so far, I mean, it's a sigh of relief to be at a stage where you can say you've got 20 return negative. We haven't heard about any positive other than the one guy that has passed away.
Mm-hmm.
But that particular part, the government's got to get a grip on that right away. I'm not telling you that they don't, but I may be, might be ignorant to the fact that it's happening. But if it's not happening, it needs to be done. And forget about whose children they are.
Right. Well, let me.
It's not about whose children it is.
I hear you, and if it's of any value to you others, that question or that concern that you're sharing, just me alone today, was it almost 12:30? So for less than 5 hours now, I've been, I don't want to say bombarded or maybe inundated, but a number of people have asked that question, phone call, a text message, or like. So it's on their mind. But let me ask then two things. One, from your perspective and what you understanding of this call to self-isolate, what is that looking like to you? How does that work to you? What do you see that meaning, and how would that be?
I think, to be quite honest with you, doing
Mm-hmm.
the discipline that would have to be there, especially for youngsters, to commit to self-quarantine. I don't have any faith in that, because you know as well as I do, these youngsters, they come and they want to get out. Oh, they've been to England now for the last several months or years, whatever. Oh, time I got to go and see this one, see that one, and not realizing and understanding the severity of what they can possibly be transmitting.
Right. But then those youngsters also have parents, right, who presumably could and should be sort of guiding them as to what they can and should be doing. So
that should be the case, but I mean,
All right, but yeah, and I hear. So just to maybe not be too exhaustive, but let's say it's one child and maybe two parents and maybe other siblings in the household, a cat, a dog, some goldfish, what have you, right? Is it then that you would understand that child, let's say that this is a household where the child would ordinarily have access to a bedroom and a bathroom independently? Is it that this self-isolation is that the child this returning student should remain in that space and the rest of the family not interact with the returning student during that 2-week period?
That is the understanding. I mean, it would be pointless to I mean, if he's going to go and going to expose the other household members to it.
Right.
I mean, it's a difficult position. Don't get me wrong.
But, I hear you. But even so,
I would have thought that with the tourists and stuff, that not being able to be able to, it would be cheaper for the government to it would be a hell of a lot cheaper for the government to say get some rooms down at one of the local establishments than to have this widespread.
Right.
I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I hear you.
I'm not suggesting that the children is coming back with it. I'm just
No.
saying, you know.
How do we make sure that the intent of the self-isolation is actually effective is what I'm hearing you ask, right?
Right.
But then I'm thinking to the household, and I'm not even going to say that it's a student that's returning to a sprawling mansion, or whether the student's returning into a 2-bedroom place that is 500 square feet, or 5,000 square feet, or 15,000. We're not saying that. But what if it's a space where the family, I don't know, they're really in that space, the air conditioning system, there are a number of other things that go into play that may not necessarily allow that level of limited or no non-contact. So how do we make sure this thing is effective?
Yeah, it's going to be some challenging times here as it withdraw as it relates to this situation. And I mean, you know, obviously the kids is queuing up to come home, and rightly so.
Rightly so.
But, you know.
Yeah, and as you suggested too, the notion that perhaps you know, being able to utilize the now relatively empty, if not, you know, hotels and establishments that exist to maybe be used in this instance, maybe for the community good, an option to pursue.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's a challenge, you know. The government certainly has it a lot to be on their shoulders, but perhaps their input could be, if not already, maybe more widespread from the community, as opposed to the few who have access to just bend the ears of, you know, the inner circle, as it were, you know.
Right.
Anyway, an amazing time. I mean, someone left messaging and said, you know, not to know a person's particular and specific personal details, but the wife of the gentleman that passed, you know, what is her status, where is she, and what is what, you know.
Exactly.
I think questions that are not unreasonable.
Was she in isolation? I mean, what is the true position with her?
Yeah, and the testing and stuff. I mean, you know, we see the visitor to the shores. He's thankful, according to the media, that, you know, he was lifted as a testament to the wonderful facility that exists within the country, whether at the hospital or whether at Health City, or the other physicians that are resident at the CTMH. You know, we have good resources, but again, how do we make sure that we're leveraging it for the betterment of the community? Anything else you want to share with us, my friend?
No, that should be all. Dwayne, take care and have a good day, man.
You too. Be safe out there, man. Thanks again.
Okay, good, man. You too.
All right. Mr. Fox, a break, he says, and then the call is when we return. Hey, I'm here if you want to share. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore.
Imagine if we all practice safe driving. Imagine if we all refuse single-use plastic. Imagine if we all turned off lights when not in use. We can all do our part in making our Cayman Islands safer, cleaner, and greener. Together, we can achieve. Visit gov.ky/safer, cleaner, greener to learn more.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs, with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts, brand source service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand source service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. It is open line 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Hey, let's go to the phones. Thank you for sharing. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Blessed and very thankful. How are you?
I am the same. Blessed
Amen.
and very thankful. First of all, let me say this. Thankful. Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Mr. Premier. And thank you to the Minister, Dwayne Seymour, Dr. Lee. I would not want to even dream about their responsibility. I hope that the good Lord give them health and strength and wise decision for our country like they've been doing, and we got to do our part. Now, your caller just now, that's an opinion. That's his opinion, and I thank him for it, and I hope that he listened to my opinion. I manage condominiums for many years, and the rest of the managers can tell you what I'm saying is true. When we had spring break, Christmas break, and sometimes even Easter, we dreaded it because of the young people coming back, which this is a total different thing. Don't get me wrong, but they did all kinds of rude things, and their parents, what can we do but to speak to their parents? The parents absolutely had no control over them. No more control over them than I have over Trump. And boy, I wish I could control him.
You wouldn't let him loose?
Okay. These students are coming back from places that are infected. And it is sad. And the government is requesting for them to be in isolation at home and their parents. Now, if we put them up in a hotel, what control do we have? How do they know? The parents know they're trying to do what the government asks of us. Who is going to put themselves in harm's way? Not saying that they have the disease, but that is one of the reasons why this thing is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And clean rooms to see that they get food, and sometimes even though you're expecting for them to be responsible,
mm-hmm.
some of them don't have no responsibility about them at all because they were not taught it.
Right.
It is helpers in the homes and stuff like that. So for my opinion, I do not think that that's a good idea. I do not think so. At home, parents can, proper food and know if something is happening or things like that. And it would be a time, even though they would have to sit far from each other, to maybe talk instead of talking on phone. Even when they go out to restaurants, parents are there before this coronavirus now that we're facing, parents are there and they're speaking to the parents on a cellular phone. Now, like I said, don't get me wrong. That's my opinion, and I thank the caller this morning and the caller just now for their opinion.
Fair enough.
I thank the Premier again. I thank Radio Cayman, and I would not like to forget His Excellency, the Governor. Thanks, Dwayne, and
yes,
God bless these islands of ours.
Amen, amen. His blessings abound upon us all. Thank you. Let's go to the phones. Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for calling.
Hello, Sterling. Rambo.
Rambo, how are you, man?
I lost my phone last Wednesday. My phone damaged. So I bought my bedroom phone. I had to endorse Mr. Alden.
Mm-hmm.
It was moved, right? Differently, and I talked to my neighbor yesterday. She related this. Then I about to wash your hands.
Mm-hmm.
That class next to godless. And all my family brought, right? I got a lot of grand uncles who got that. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And son, and one special leader with insurance. You know, I love her. And you know, but Sterling, we can't be like I keep being prevention been a cure. From the get go, I took OC last Wednesday morning, right? I took OC with a hazmat suit. That's the whole initiative. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I like keep looking my stuff, like some rewinding, re-owning. You understand? So with the times of revelation, so there you go.
Right.
I go work now, and I go late today, but I go work. I get 3 hours. I get my health. That's it. So then you take care. You're a responsible father. Your children should be see. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Do your thing. And Susan, hello, and Mr. Captain Miller.
Yeah, man. Blessings to you, man. Blessings to you. All right. Now, and as the caller shares, it is for us as the caller's prior equally individual responsibility. And when this is over, we will all hopefully be able to gather and maybe not just play Monday morning quarterback, but in hindsight, make an evaluation as to what is what. During the last 3 callers, I've got a number of messages. I don't know how responsible it would be to share them in its entirety, so I will not. As I said to one of the people who messaged through, if you call and you share your thought, your opinion publicly, I'll embrace it, the right to do so, Mr. Fox. And if you are, of the mind that this is your thought, hey, that's fine. I will paraphrase what was shared because, excuse me, 3 of the number of messages seem to be along the same mind sort of set, the thinking and thought process. You're probably watching the news, and I'll ask you to confirm what I'm told, but just loosely saying, Europe as a entity, and we use the word lockdown, seems to would be one in the same sentence. So if that's transpiring, we're seeing the UK saying to the citizens, you come home, from what we're told. We're seeing Canada and other countries saying to the citizens, don't travel. We're seeing airfares being offered, cruise, according to people who are otherwise very responsible, sharing information that they receive from, say, cruise companies and travel agents. You can get a fare from here to there for little or nothing. Well, we'll see. Now, 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. And I want to share with you one thought. Let's see this WhatsApp, what it is saying. Let me read that through initially for us to see where we go with that. But the question is, this whole thing as it plays out, what is the impact? With respect to returning students, I think the caller prior shared it. We as parents need to ensure that as we're, raising and rearing our children, that we instill a sense of responsibility, as we give them autonomy, we expect accountability and the like. These are the future leaders of tomorrow. So I believe that they can. But then when we were to self-isolate the household, how do we work that? Share some thoughts with you. Let's go to the phones first, though. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling. Hello. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, Dwayne. I'm sorry. I don't normally call back. I try to avoid that.
Sometimes you just have to, right?
But I understand. I would not. Why I would not privy to the conversation of the female caller who called right after me to highlight the fact that having worked in condos and what these children do, what some irresponsible children do with regards to property. I think I would like that female caller to examine and answer me one question, and if she can answer this, she's the biggest genius in the world. What if they go there to whatever property it is that the government decides, if they do decide to go that way for the purpose of quarantine and damage a toilet bowl? I would like to know how quick we could replace that toilet bowl, and at what cost. How quick can we replace that property that may get damaged? Obviously, they're not going to damage the structure, right? They ain't going there with dynamite. They're going there to be quarantined. Anyone who can tell me that risking a few bits and pieces of property compared to lives, there's no replacement for a life. I didn't know one person yet that were replaced. So, we got engage our brain sometime in these situations, and
right.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to engage my brains so that others may hear it and they might also be thinking to consider it. And as
right.
I said, and don't get me wrong, I am not here bashing the government because I think they have done a phenomenal job. They've done press briefings. They're encouraging self-quarantine. They're doing it. I'm not beating them down. All I'm doing is adding suggestions to what they are already trying to do.
Right. And I think, from what you've shared, the notion that what the government is doing, I don't want to use the word say in concert nor the word in tandem, but it's very much in line with what we see in other world governments doing in terms of isolating citizens, in terms of requiring perhaps a closure of certain establishments, perhaps the suspending of flights where possible and travel. If you have a minute, and if as I asked I can pose a question to you, and as I ask it, if you are inclined to engage, let me know. All right. This notion with respect to what we're seeing in terms of limiting certain things. So you go to a business and no more than X number inside at one time, the social distancing sounds useful. What do you think about, as we've seen and reported in some jurisdictions now, that it's almost akin to martial law? There are curfews, there are no movements, police are patrolling. Reportedly told in Italy, for instance, you don't come outside your house. If you do, the police will arrest you right then and there. How do you feel about that sort of thing transpiring here? So, a curfew, no movements between districts, and nothing else short of martial law. What do you think about that?
I think that for that to be accepted at this very early stage, it would be a bit premature because, as I say, we couldn't mitigate that at this present stage because we don't have the tests that were done. Thank God they've got trained back. I understand, as I read in the papers.
But the Honorable Premier has cautioned that they're preliminary, which is encouraging. Right. But let's wait until the CARFA sort of gives their stamp as well.
Sure,
right?
Sure, understood. So
yes,
preliminary. I rather to hear that they're negative preliminary,
which is good.
Which is good. And I'm not saying, and I don't think that all of us would be sitting here thinking that we probably wouldn't get a couple of positive ones. I'm hoping we won't. But I believe, for the best part, those people would have already been in some sort of isolation. I think to institute a martial laws at this stage as I said, that would be a bit.
At what stage, though, would you be willing to accept that?
Well, I mean, it would have to be, the cases would have to be, I would have said, more substantial than they are now.
But you're willing to accept that?
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm willing to live by the laws of the land.
No, laws of the land aside, but all of a sudden now we see, well, we don't have an armor just yet, but it wouldn't.
If there's a curfew, there's a curfew, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I accept the fact that next week Friday evening, I wouldn't be able to go to happy hour. I accept that.
Okay, I hear that, and the reason why I'm asking, right, and I'm hoping as we listen, a number of things will be very evident. As you shared, let us all be civil, let us all be law-abiding, and let us perhaps follow what we're now hearing that some of the people from Italy are sharing that they wish they had. Before they knew better, they were out socializing a little bit more than perhaps what we should be doing now that we have the benefit of hindsight, the benefit of the knowledge to us. So let's just take a few weeks and distance ourselves, right? Let's be socially responsible, be individually conscious, be willing to, on a voluntary basis. But then let's fast forward. Sunday, 11:59 p.m., no more bars, restaurants, in terms of, the happy hour, no more salons and spas and barbershops and the like. But why Sunday? I mean, why don't we just do that from yesterday? I mean, this Friday evening, if we all were to congregate at our favorite watering hole, just to celebrate one last hurrah. I mean, Friday to Sunday, yeah. So why don't we do that now?
I get where you're coming from, Dwayne. Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I mean, today is only Wednesday. I mean, it's a very good question. And I think that, as you're saying now, looking at it now from your perspective, what you're saying is then that if they're going to get together for that last hurrah, that could be that the possibility of anything spreading then is ever more possible. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, man.
Understood. But one of the things too that I think that you need to first of all think to yourself. I mean, I went to one of the shops just a couple of days ago, and a guy was in there barking the place down. I mean, it sound like his whole stomach was gonna come out and coughing and going on.
Yeah.
Right? Well, why you come into the public like that for?
You may see some. Yeah.
Into the public like that for? You mean to tell me that those couple of things that you need to get, you can't get somebody to get them and drop them off on your portfolio?
Some people, you always see the co-worker that comes in the morning very early, right? But after half an hour or so leaves to go home just because they don't want to show like they were sick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stay yourself home. But anyway, socially responsible, right?
Yep. All right. Take care, James.
Talk to you soon, eh?
Okay, man.
All right. I know we have a caller. Respectfully, please stay on the line. I'm told we have a break. I should know this by now, all right? Let's do that. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Did you know that ValueMed Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with ValueMed. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location, ValueMed on Walkers Road or Boddentown. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
A public service announcement from Radio Cayman.
You're pressing for everyone to use their good conscience. Don't be selfish in respecting the suggested distance of 6 feet and the washing of hands constantly. Please check on your neighbors and especially our elderly. Also, persons who have chronic lung disease, diabetes, bronchitis, cancer, or asthma. Check on your family members and isolate them soonest as possible. I ask those persons who smoke until it's clear, please do not put anything in your lungs that are not natural. You may well be increasing your risks. This includes vaping. Self-isolation is very important for our country's ability to bounce back quickly to some normalcy. This disease is not prejudice.
It is important if you come from the UK or the US or indeed anywhere else across Europe or indeed the world these days to self-isolate. Stay alone for 14 days until you are certain that you do not have the virus and therefore cannot pass it on.
For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/public-health/coronavirus or gov.ky/coronavirus.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you so much for joining us. Just quickly, 2 p.m., the regular press briefing by the government is scheduled. We will take it live here on Radio Cayman, and CIG TV will also take it live. 1 o'clock right after the news, MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris will join us. We'll talk about the NAU recent approved increase funding by the Honorable Premier as announced yesterday. But we've got a couple of calls. Just do that first. Welcome. You're on Talk Today. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you, sir? Welcome. Thank you for calling. Good afternoon, sir. How are you, sir?
Yes, doing okay. Good afternoon to you and Miss Susan, all our listeners.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, and blessings to you as well,
Yes, sir. Be safe. Right. Okay. As usual, I like to keep the public informed on certain issues concerning whatever it may be. I want to inform the residents of Cayman Brac that the the barge is expected to load on Friday night because we have a shortage of drinking water and other things, and that sells out real quickly in a crisis like this. And the barge is supposed to load on Friday night and probably depart Saturday morning and come on to the Brac with supplies. It comes usually on Thursdays, but due to things being bought up, lots of things are being bought up and stored, and we need the tug and barge to come here more often now instead once a week. It needs to keep up with our demands, and thinking if we hope not, but they need to secure a replacement in keeping in line with things in case if anyone gets sick from the crew members or the captain of the tug and barge. That's the only transport we have bringing goods to Cayman Brac. Grand Cayman probably got about 5 freighters that comes in from Tampa, Miami, and Port Everglades bringing stuff, but Cayman Brac only got the one tug and barge. Anyway, people here are a lot of concerned residents in Cayman Brac, and I myself is very concerned, but good to know that they're cutting off the arrivals of people at midnight on Sunday night coming in from the U.S. and everywhere, Jamaica, Honduras, all over the place. So it will only be inter-island traffic and persons going back and forth from Grand Cayman. Not known for anyone here to have it as yet in Cayman Brac, and I hope it remains that way. And the hygienic properties and keeping yourself, if someone does get it, like I said on the talk show there last Wednesday, remember saying that take this thing as something very serious, and I was absolutely correct. See where we have reached now with this situation with the coronavirus. Well, I call it the death virus because it's been killing people, young people, not only the elderly, but young people. And just to reiterate here, and any person that has impairment in their health, it would be detrimental, and it could be deadly to people with asthma, high blood pressure, diabetes, any kind of lung problem. So for those people to try and, if it does spread, to stay away from all activity. And that's the only way hygienically to prevent it. It's like it's thought like the common flu and cold transmitted by people being in close contact, shaking hands, sneezing, and all that kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
How are you all doing down there?
I think we're doing well considering. I think what's important is the notion that people keep their spirits up. For those who subscribe to the faith, be prayerful for those in leadership. And as you shared, as individuals, be cognizant of our responsibility to each other and to ourselves, and to, as the Honorable Premier reminds us, endorsed by His Excellency, let's self-isolate, contain this thing as best as we can, and a notion that there are going to be some of us who see the opportunities after, because we've hoarded up on the goods, that we're going to use it to price, make a profit at the expense of others. But why don't we go back to the mantra that we had and used to live by? Share and share alike. I got, you don't have. You don't have enough, I got more. Let's share, We'll be all right, Mr. Raymond. We will be all right,
Yes, sir. And can you confirm, according to what reports are, that the people that was exposed to the one patient at the Shetty Hospital, the results have came back all negative on all of those people that the tests were done on?
Right. The press briefing yesterday, the Honorable Premier, together with the Chief Medical Officer, did indicate that the initial tests are all negative. They'll be sent for further sort of validation and the like. But yes, very encouraging news. The first round have proven to be negative. There are still some outstanding tests, and maybe today, tomorrow, the next day, as soon as they are available, we'll get those reports of the results for that. But we also know that Cayman is the first, overseas territory to be able to be in a position to offer the tests, on island, which significantly increases the time that we get the results. We also understand that reps from the overseas territories as part of Public Health England have been assisting. And this is where I think the country has continued to recognize the importance of investing in its health system and its education system. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather know somebody could, wield a shovel or know how to, administer CPR than to carry a gun. Apparently that's disaster management these days, but who knows. Mr. Raymond, we got the news break coming up. Anything else you want to share with us, sir? All right. Appreciate it very much.
That's about it.
Yes, sir.
Until the next time, all the best to everybody, and keep safe and do your hygienic. Like I said before, I'm just going to repeat this now. Use the antibacterial agent, such as the hand sanitizer.
If you got
the Listerine and all that.
Right. Mr. Raymond, let me...
After shave the Listerine, you gaggle it, you put it all over your face.
Yeah, bathe with it. Mr. Raymond, could I ask you just one thing quickly? From your perspective now, on the BRAC, are people moving about, socializing, going out and about as they would normally, or have people sort of opted to remain indoors in their homes? What are you seeing transpiring on the BRAC?
Yes, people definitely are staying in, and today in my movements, I've seen the persons that is in ill health condition having a face mask, a mouth mask on. I've seen about 5 people so far today with that. One at the bank and one in the.
So people are still moving about the place.
So, yeah, but people is still moving about. But once we get a case here, has to be ice, which we hope.
Yeah, but that's no. What I want to know is sort of. I want to know if people are moving out and about as normal, or people have started to kind of retreat.
Yes, people are moving, but some are staying in and avoiding being with crowds. At the Cayman National Bank is the only bank now, and they're allowing only 3 people at a time into the bank. So you have to come and stand by the door. Let me give this information to the public. If you're coming to go to the ATM, you can go straight in. If you're coming to go to the bank counter where you need to deposit or get a check or something like that, cash a check, you have to wait in line by the front door. 3 people at a time is allowed inside, and when they come out, then another 3 will go in like that. That's how they operate. And we only have the one bank, not like many down there.
Yep. Well, you probably, Listen, thank you very much for that, sir. With that, we'll pause, take a break. After the news, MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris will join us, and we'll talk about the NAU emergency funding that the Honourable Premier announced yesterday. So join us after the break.
Community radio with a different appeal. The voice of the people. Security through adversity. Stuck on you. Radio for all time.
You're listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news.
Access to information.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The Health Services Authority is cancelling all non-essential appointments for Georgetown General Practice Clinic, effective immediately, to protect patients and minimize potential transmission of COVID-19. The HSA says all patients with appointments will be contacted to reschedule. Now, the acute care walk-in clinic in the Georgetown Practice Building will remain open at this time, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. until 8 p.m., and has extended its hours on Saturday, 8:30 a.m. until 4 p.m. Patients who require chronic medications refills are advised to call 949-8600. And at this time, HSA says the pharmacy can accommodate dispensing 1 month of medication. In news elsewhere, the number of people dying from coronavirus in Italy has risen by 475 in one day to nearly 3,000, the biggest increase since the outbreak. There are a total of 35,713 confirmed cases in the country, with more than 4,000 having successfully recovered. Italy is the world's worst affected country after China, where the virus originated last year. At least 8,758 people have died, most in China. U.S. President Donald Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau have agreed to close the U.S.-Canada border to all non-essential travel in an attempt to curb the spread of coronavirus. Both countries had already issued sweeping travel bans but had maintained exemptions for each other. The two leaders had spoken on Wednesday to discuss the changes, Mr. Trudeau said. And Glastonbury's famous Pyramid stage will remain dark in June as the festival becomes the latest event to be cancelled due to coronavirus. Taylor Swift, Sir Paul McCartney, and Kendrick Lamar were due to appear alongside Diana Ross. Just 6 days ago, organizer Emily Avis said she had fingers firmly crossed the event would go ahead. But after the government advised people to avoid mass gatherings on Monday, cancellation became increasingly likely. Those are your latest updates here on Radio Cayman. I'm Shanda Gallego.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Hi, I am Dr. Lee, Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health. The Ministry and the Department of Public Health, along with our partners, are working hard to help protect residents from the novel coronavirus. Did you know the best way to help prevent infection is to avoid being exposed? So please, wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or use an alcohol-based sanitizer. Cover your noses and mouths when coughing or sneezing. And as best as possible, keep a good distance or avoid contact with anyone with symptoms of a respiratory infection. To read more about the public health's updates, please visit hsa.ky.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255. Let your voice be heard. And now, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And if I may extend a very special Talk Today welcome to MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris. And if people don't, after this mistreat him because I said my friend, and I hope I don't get you in trouble for calling you my friend.
Not at all, my friend. Sterling, it's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity, and a very special good afternoon to those who are tuned in.
Yes, thank you. And it is me, and I recognize that oftentimes people don't appreciate that. A smile is a smile, but it goes a long way.
Yes.
But sometimes a smile doesn't convey they have a sentiment that may weigh on one's shoulders or on one's heart. And as I look at you and if I may, the leadership of our country, the elected leadership, the shoulders of the Premier, His Excellency, the opposition leader, got to be very burdened now for many reasons, and understandably. We'll get back to the politics in short order. We'll take an opportunity to go in the ring, and maybe we'll only get 3 rounds, maybe we get 12 in. That'll come. Time for the country to unite and find a way and to resolve as best as we can, deal with the situation. And with that, I pray, publicly that we as a people will pray for wisdom. Council will pray for, a sense of perseverance and a sense of good sense.
Yes, indeed.
Amongst our people,
Sterling, I completely agree with you. Certainly, the country has been relatively divided for the better part of a year with one issue or the otherwise. Mm-hmm. But I certainly agree that now is not the time for that.
Yeah.
Now is the time for solidarity. Now is the time for Caymankind, which gratefully, we are seeing in many, many quarters. Now is the time for our citizens to look after themselves. As I told a constituent just last evening, we want to encourage our fellow Caymanians to hold your corner, look after yourself and your family, and trusting that your government will be looking after you. You certainly mentioned the Premier and members of Cabinet who have been working tirelessly along with the rest of the government during this difficult time. As you know, there's been a press conference every day since, I think, Friday last week. There will be another one again this afternoon at 2 o'clock. The Minister of Commerce, the Honourable Joseph Hew, will be delivering that press briefing.
And I would joke and say, despite that, still listen, but you see, no, I won't do that.
Stop it now. Stop it now.
Come, you have to laugh, man.
Stop it
Although
now.
Mr. Hew will be like, that's not funny. No,
that's not funny. That's not funny. No, and certainly, Mr. Hew has also had his hands full, not least of which with the landfill fire that occurred last week as well. So it's been a number of events colliding rather quickly, but to the citizens of the country, the government is certainly not in panic mode. The government is managing the situation as best it certainly can. As the Premier stated, it is a dynamic situation, which means it changes every day. So we have to adjust our sails accordingly.
Not a word I would use, but,
Yeah?
Yeah, because dynamic. Oh, you're dynamic. But we know what it means, right? It's ever-changing. I mean, this is fluid, as they say. So I don't mean to interrupt, but this is where I think the leadership has to be supported. We can get into the politics. We can get into the banter, the notion of, well, this, that, and the next thing. But if we want to be safe, if we want to get to the point where we go back to that mantra that Caymanians were raised with, share and share alike. Can you imagine? I'm just sitting there. I can't even begin to imagine you and all the other elected members, some of the things that you're hearing being reported to you. But if someone says, for instance, one of the bigger grocery stores, somebody comes up with a flatbed truck and a bunch of them goes in and they shop independently because they understand how to game the system, and they load it onto this particular one point.
Yes.
Now it's great that you may be coordinating efforts, but what if it's something else down the road? Now we need to work together.
Agreed.
So I must commend the government for in a trying time, as you share with us now, the NAU, emergency funding and the like. But there's so much more that we can do if we do it together, and then we can work it out. So.
Absolutely. Well, certainly the message continues to be: don't panic, stay calm. The government is awake and certainly handling the situation daily, and the citizens of this country need to trust. They need to follow the guidance that is being provided, the official guidance. Again, there's a lot of there's a lot of information circulating around. Some of it true, a lot of it not true. The best advice we can give the citizens of this country is to follow the official guidance, and the government has made itself available both on a daily basis for the press conferences. We have the website, the dedicated website, www.gov.ky/coronavirus, which is updated regularly with new information as that information changes. It gives tips on home isolation. It gives tips on how to avoid anxiety whilst in home isolation. It talks about social distancing and the recommended distance between persons. All of these things are key guidelines that will help to reduce the spread of contagion in our country. And as you mentioned prior to the break, as was announced yesterday, 20 cases, the first batch of 20 cases, all of which have come back negative. So that is a bit of good news, but we are waiting on final confirmation as those tests have been sent off to CARFA for validation. But again, the country should not panic. We've seen a great deal of effort, a great deal of persons just sort of mobbing the supermarkets in particular. There is no need for that, but I certainly understand as persons begin to stock up, particularly those persons who might otherwise be going into self-imposed isolation, and they want to make sure they have the necessary supplies. I understand it. But certainly to everyone else, the island is in a good position with our merchandise. We are working with all of our businesses, our supermarkets, our pharmacies, our hospitals, you name it. The government is in conversation with, and the country should be put at ease And again, my recommendation is hold your corner, look after yourself, look after your family, and trust that your government is looking after you.
Okay. Well, sir, I certainly appreciate you sharing, and as we go through, we can, maybe engage in some of the other things. One of the things we might want to ask of you is, we look at where Cayman is in relation to what it's doing.
Yes.
And we look at what the world, we can see that it's almost, don't want to use coordinated, but very much consistent measures, whether it's in the North America, Canada, for instance, whether it's the UK or Europe generally. We're seeing, hey, let's stay indoors, let's not travel.
Yes.
The government's advisory. So our people are doing this thing. It's not, unfortunately, looked at some of the media reports and I thought, Cayman didn't close its airport, because it was the only place that did it. We need to be a little bit more cognizant of how we print things sometimes and share things, because if it's the maliciousness or if it's just the irresponsible nature, and some of us probably both.
Yes.
But little things like that, because when you're ugly, ugly. But that doesn't mean that you can't be nice.
Yes.
So,
well, certainly when we talk about what the government is doing, and in particular the efforts towards self-isolation for persons who either have a travel history or they feel as if they have symptoms of a flu or otherwise. As you pointed out, the World Health Organization calls that self-isolation flattening the curve. That is flattening the curve of contagion. So by keeping persons in their home, particularly in our small society, closing businesses, and as the Premier announced yesterday, more businesses were recommended for closure. That effort is to flatten that curve, to reduce the spread of coronavirus or COVID-19. Again, I think it's important to note at this point, as we sit here today, we don't have community transmission. So that's good news, and obviously we want to maintain that standing. But the home isolation is intended to reduce the spread, to reduce coming in contact with persons who might be infected or otherwise, and ideally to keep our citizens safe during this challenging time.
All right. Well, certainly appreciate it. Could we share this too for one of our very, very, very prominent business leaders?
Yes.
Say, grateful that we're encouraging people not to panic, not to panic buy, not to do one, but also maybe consider as a people to reduce our consumption, because why buy and eat everything right now?
Yes.
I mean, a little restraint can go a long way.
Yes.
And some of us we get cooped up, so we can eat more.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but
yes. Well, I think an important aspect of that message is that this COVID-19 pandemic could be with us for a long time. It could be with us certainly past the 3-month timeline that we've spoken of and planned of. Certainly, it will go past the 3-week travel ban that is already in place. Will it worsen? Will the threat decrease? Again, these are unknowns at this point. So, to your point, you don't want to consume that week's grocery in that 1 week. If you could, obviously extend and stretch your resources. I think of hurricane.
Yeah.
We're very trained and skilled in this country to prepare for hurricanes. Caymanians, is it corned beef? Corned beef is not hurricane food; it's a staple, and you can make all sorts of things with corned beef, and it's a meal, very filling.
It
works with eggs, it works with rice, it works with bread, you name it.
Just some peppers, man.
Exactly, just throw a little pepper in there, and voila, it's a brand new dish.
But as I was reading that, I'm thinking to myself, and I should have thought about that, because I finished all my chocolate. Can I go back and get more?
I know what you're like when you don't get your chocolate. So, yes, you definitely need to make sure you have adequate supply of chocolate.
There you go, my friend. But to our listeners, I definitely always enjoy his company, MLA Councillor Austin Harris. When he was hosting the show, and I listened, I was, whether it was the first one or the one in the afternoon. And I don't say that lightly, because you're able to engage and keep your audience, man. You have a presence.
Well, I appreciate that, but certainly let me also throw out a few kudos to yourself. I listen to your show as often as possible nowadays. Certainly my years on the radio seem like light years away from where I am today, and certainly these last few weeks makes it seem a lot longer. But I commend yourself for again, the job you're doing, the job that Radio Cayman is doing in general, both the news, the advisories, the morning show, the afternoon show. It is all so important to keep our community informed. And certainly from the government standpoint, we're grateful for that. We ask you to certainly try to control the rumor mill. Really, it's.
So you want me to make it rain too?
I know what it takes to make radio exciting, but in this present circumstance, we don't need that.
We don't. I you know what? If I'm not excited enough, then just tell me.
But what you need to do is, Eddie, I need to get you and Ray Banker back in the studio again because I enjoy that particular partnership.
Actually, I have someone else in mind, but I mean,
fair enough.
But you know what? There's a part of me that finds laughter to be great medicine, but you know what? In any other circumstance, I would endeavor. But share with me. So, NAU emergency funding.
Yes, sir. As you and the listening audience will undoubtedly be aware, Cabinet approved on Tuesday, that's yesterday, a supplementary emergency funding for the Needs Assessment Unit to protect our most vulnerable during this difficult time and from the impacts associated with COVID-19 coronavirus. And with your permission, I will outline what those provisions entail and who they will benefit. There will be a one-time emergency stipend payable to persons who presently receive permanent financial assistance. These are persons who are the elderly and the disabled, seafarers and veterans of, I think it's $425 single payment. And that is obviously being made available to cover medical supplies, groceries, and other needs that are elderly in particular who are most critically impacted by this present pandemic. We are also making available a one-time emergency stipend to existing Needs Assessment Unit clients. At present, the Needs Assessment Unit caters to some 311 families with an average of 4 persons per family. They receive food vouchers as part of that assistance, either weekly or bi-weekly. There will be a one-time emergency stipend for those households of, it's an average of $170. And I say it's an average because we have, under the existing NAU system, persons who either receive food vouchers weekly or bi-weekly, and depending on individual circumstances, anywhere from $99 to $180. So it will be plus or minus depending on an individual circumstances, but that money is also being made available because we recognize that the food vouchers you normally receive, that's already accounted for most months. You know what you're going to get. You know what your house consumes. You know what you're going to need. With this pandemic situation, you're going to need extra. You're going to need hand sanitizer. You're going to need Clorox. You're going to need alcohol, and so on and so forth. So we want to make sure that those provisions are made available.
So respectfully, Mr. I just want to rewind a second. NAU currently caters to 311 families.
311 families.
With an average of about
an average of 4 people per household.
1,244 people there.
1,244 people exactly on that average.
Right, and then an honorable premier says expecting that to double.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have also secured funding. Again, the cabinet has secured funding to double that amount of clients. So we are anticipating the potential for a further 311 families or 1,244 people, and as such, funding has been allocated to account for that expected increase in demand on services, and that is available also through the Needs Assessment Unit. One other provision in terms of the one-time stipends, a one-time stipend will also be made available for parents who are part of the adoption program, and they receive regularly a stipend from the government to cover their costs and needs. We will add to that stipend an additional one-time payment of $250 for those adoption parents as well. So overall, I think the message here is that, again, persons should not panic. We have seen, we've heard fears of, how am I going to feed my family? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to keep the lights on? Gratefully, again, for the businesses and the utility providers that we've spoken to, they're going to offer payment holidays. So those bills are, in some respects, certainly being managed much better in preparation for, again, the increased demand. But likewise, the needs assessment recognizes that persons are fearful, recognizes that persons are vulnerable, and as such, we have made those provisions available to them in order to assist those most vulnerable in our community. We have also added an improved calling facility because you may or may not be aware, we are encouraging citizens to avoid having to come into the needs assessment unit in person. We're encouraging either you give them a call or you send them an email, nauinfo@gov.ky. You can go online at gov.ky and obtain the necessary, the website is www.nau.gov.ky. The email address is nauinfo@gov.ky. Or if you wish to contact NAU, the telephone number is 946-0024 in Grand Cayman or 948-8758 in Cayman Brac. Because we anticipate that there will be a demand on services, we have also made available an overflow facility in terms of calls. So not necessarily a call center, but any calls that come into NAU that the caseworkers are already engaged in will overflow to a number within the ministry, and additional social workers and case officers have been assigned to answer those calls and to be able to provide the assistance to those persons who are in fact in need.
Okay, so actually people who were able through their skill sets, qualifications, who probably otherwise were maybe, for argument's sake, DCFS, could be using their social workers.
That is correct.
Yeah, well, again, responsiveness in a changing time.
Indeed, sir. Indeed, sir. So hopefully that information will relieve some of the anxieties that I personally have already heard, but certainly I'm sure you've heard many of them, your callers, your listeners to the program. This assistance will be administered through the Needs Assessment Unit, but certainly a person should not be fearful of that in any way. I would also like to, I particularly would like to isolate the staff of the Needs Assessment Unit within the Ministry of Community Affairs. They're proving time and time again to be some dedicated and committed individuals, many of whom going above and beyond the call of duty, particularly during this difficult time, many of whom working way past the standard 5 o'clock time to go home shut off. In many cases, case officers are still at their desk assisting people as late as 10 o'clock at night. So that's a level of dedication that we normally don't hear about in the public domain from NAU. People are usually complaining about NAU.
Sadly, yeah.
But I want to express my heartfelt thanks to the staff and management of the Needs Assessment Unit, and of course our overarching Ministry of Community Affairs team.
And Mr. Morris, thank you for highlighting that, because I believe maybe now more than ever they'll be extended hours, but even in the past, not to embarrass them, I know they were quiet in it, but they've been known to be there, beyond 5, many evenings.
Yes.
And I don't say it publicly because sadly the Cayman that we live in perhaps isn't the Cayman that we would like it to be in terms of our personal safety.
Yes.
Oh, I know that person is working late. We may leave them as they were, but these are very dedicated public servants.
Absolutely.
And I'm honored to know that they're there.
Indeed. I do have one plea, and it's particular to needs assessment, and that is we are pleading with landlords who provide, obviously, space for many of our vulnerable persons to be conscious of the fact that salaries are depressed. In some cases, persons are being laid off without pay, and the recognition that the government simply cannot float the labor cost, i.e. lost wages of the citizens of this country, otherwise we'd be broke in a week. But we are depending on our citizens, the businesses, our merchants. Again, we mentioned earlier on, CUC, the Water Authority, Cayman Water Company, all agreeing to payment holidays. We have the banks agreeing to also put mortgages on payment holidays. Those mortgages, many of those mortgages are attached to the properties in which landlords are using to rent.
Mm-hmm.
So if your mortgage is being relaxed for a period of at least 3 months, then perhaps you may want to pass on those savings to your tenants. What we do not want is for Caymanians or citizens to be homeless, to be without a roof over their head, particularly during this particular difficult time.
Yeah.
It is proving more difficult because obviously the overall rental pool is spread out over a large number of people. So you can't, as in the case of the Bankers Association, bring them in together in a room and make an agreement. So they're proving a bit more difficult. So I am just pleading with landlords to be conscious and to think with your heart, as it is impacting
but with the banks,
individuals and their families.
And not asking you specifically, but if you wish to weigh in, but with the banks, is the, I don't even call it the payment holiday, whatever it is that they're going to come up with that makes it sound nice. You're still going to pay, you're just going to be deferred. So the month is skipped. We're not going to pay the April's mortgage payment, tacked on, accrued interest, and compounded, and then down the road, you just pay it again. Maybe it's 2 months to 3 months. It's not that, you've now have 13 months on your mortgage, we're going to waive 1, so you only got 12. That's not what we're talking about.
No, not at all. First of all, I want to say that persons who are otherwise believe they will have difficulty meeting their mortgage obligations should contact their bankers. It won't be a payment holiday that will be a blanket payment holiday. It will be decided on a case-by-case basis, a client-by-client basis, and this is something that the banks will do individually. So persons who believe, say for example, I spoke to one family just this afternoon. They've been laid off for 2 weeks with no pay. That is going to have an impact on their ability to pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
So they need to reach out to their mortgage provider, their banking provider. But yes, to your point, I don't anticipate, and whilst I have not heard any details to the contrary,
Right.
but certainly I don't anticipate that it's a payment forgiveness situation. It's very much a holiday, but you will of course be asked to make up those payments. What I would encourage though are persons who do have the ability within the means to make their payments,
Just
whether
keep
the mortgage or
paying
their utilities, to keep paying it, because we know how quickly bills can add up. We don't know what the next challenge around the next corner may be. So persons who have the ability, keep paying your bills as you normally would. But those persons who do not have the ability, or those persons who will be challenged as a result of these difficult times, provisions have been made, and they're encouraged, particularly to their mortgages, to reach out to their bank. If you're having problems with utility payments, reach out to the utility provider, the water provider, and so on and so forth.
I've always had problems with those. I think it's just too expensive. No, but
we're working on that too.
Well, and the other thing too, maybe as we go to the break with the banks, and sometimes maybe the banks don't get enough licks in the public domain as they should, but we saw the reduction for the Fed funds rate to 0. We see almost immediately, the savings rate did come down, but we got to wait until next Monday, the 23rd, for the interest rates on our mortgages and other lending facilities to be reduced. Really? You can drop my interest rate on my little savings, but you got to wait a whole week. You can see where my thoughts are, right?
I know exactly where you're headed with it.
You wait till I get it. And I just
as a consumer like yourself, I feel it as well, so I completely understand it.
Yeah, man.
Where you're headed.
All right. We're going to pause, sir. Respectfully, we'll take a short break.
Certainly.
And who knows what trouble I'll get Mr. Austin Harrison.
Or
allow him to lead me down that path. I mean, who knows? All right, when we come back from the break, more talk today.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Hi, my name is Neraya LeBlanc. I am the minister and evangelist to the West Bay Church of Christ on 24 Batabano Road. I would love to take this opportunity to invite you to experience God's family at West Bay for yourself. We are a caring congregation that strongly believes in reaching out beyond ourselves to spread the gospel of Christ. We also take great pleasure in ministering to the needs of our people in our community. As God's called out kingdom people, we are in the business of transforming lives for the Master's use. For more information, you can visit our website at westbaycichurchofchrist.org or call us at 946-9294 or 917-1809.
Declaring the word of the Lord.
Cayman Islands Church of Christ presents Word of the Lord.
Word of the Lord, heard Sundays at 6:30 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman News.
The Cayman Islands' first recorded COVID-19 positive patient passed away at 4:40 a.m.
In Cayman, there's a strong Christian tradition of helping each other.
Testing for COVID-19 will be available locally this week.
Some of these decisions are quite radical and drastic, but we are determined to do everything we can.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
To protect the health of our customers and staff, Water Authority Cayman is encouraging customers to conduct as much business as possible online or over the phone to avoid coming into the office. Need to pay a bill? You can do it online. Just visit our website, waterauthority.ky, and click on the Pay My Bill button. Experiencing service issues? Contact our customer service team over the phone on 949-2837 or email info@waterauthority.ky. Don't forget to practice good hygiene by washing your hands frequently with soap and water. For updates from the Water Authority, visit our website, waterauthority.ky, and our social media pages.
Hey, what's up?
I'm good, just been hanging out with some friends.
Oh, for real? Word is that you've been partying and drinking.
I've only been out a few times, and plus, I know how to handle my liquor. And alcohol isn't as harmful as any other drug, so whatever.
Bruh, first of all, your brain is still developing. Plus, too much alcohol can lead to liver damage or alcohol poisoning. Your organs are probably screaming right about now.
So how comes when my friends, my mom and my daughter drink, nothing ever happens to them?
Seriously? 1, you're under 18, which makes it illegal. 2, your brain doesn't stop growing until about age 25, and drinking can affect how it develops. Just because you see someone drinking and they may look fine, their body isn't. Alcohol can cause heart attacks, brain damage, memory loss, cancer, early diabetes, increased blood pressure, depression, alcohol
Wait. Are you serious?
Bro, I'm telling you.
No. I get it. These are some facts I didn't know. I'm glad you shared them.
Shatter the myths today. For more information on teens and drinking, visit ndc.ky.
This message is brought to you by the National Drug Council and Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you so much for joining us, and especially thanks to MLA and Councillor Ms. Dawson Harris for, sharing the afternoon with us. I mean, I don't know if there's anything better you could be doing, but if it is, well, we think Radio Cayman is the best place to be.
Well, certainly I'd rather be spending my time here with you than some of the grueling meetings that I've had to attend in the last few days. But certainly, it's the job.
It's the job. There you go, man. But thank you very much, man. So as we were chatting with the NAU, and the phone lines are open if people want to call and share their thoughts. Thank you. I apologize. Mr. Harris did say at the outset if people want to call and make, but I think the phones are working. I'm not sure. They're probably coronavirus free. I don't know. Just call and
Yes.
Call and share your thoughts.
Certainly, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them as best as I can. Certainly, again, I want to provide the contact information for the Needs Assessment Unit, if I may. They can be contacted via telephone, 946-0024 in Grand Cayman, 948-8758 in Cayman Brac. They can be reached via email at nauinfo@gov.ky, or you can log on to the website, www.nau.gov.ky, in order to download forms or otherwise that may be needed. And again, a overflow facility to handle any demand in services, in particular the calls, because NAU is restricting individual to present themselves again as part of the social distancing protocols. Again, persons are encouraged to call, email the Needs Assessment Unit for assistance.
All right. And I think at the end of the day, too many times we are, how do you put it, easy to criticize without necessarily appreciating that constructive critique is different.
Yes.
And it's a trying time. It's not easy, but we'll get through this if we do it together.
We absolutely will get through this together. And, whilst I don't want it to feel too much like church, I just want to certainly remind people God still sits on his throne.
Yeah,
and
boy.
Prayer continues to work for these islands. I don't believe these islands have been lucky in times of trials, but I believe we've been blessed because we have such a strong believing population.
Amen.
People like your parents and mine who are, praying for us and for the country. So certainly don't be too proud to send up a little word of prayer. The Almighty is always listening.
Amen to that. And I will apologize to you, Mr. Harris. I'm glad that Miss Norma said to me, you need to learn to multitask. And so she puts multiple devices in front of me, and I'm expected to read and look and observe. So a couple of people were just asking other questions in relation to NAU and to some of the things. I did respond to one. There is the scheduled press briefing at 2 p.m.
Yes, there is.
And maybe information could be had there. A number of the questions just sort of relate to some of the things that were already asked and answered. But it's probably because people want to be reminded. Maybe they just missed it. Maybe they just want to hear it first time to be reassured.
To repeat, as we know in radio.
Is that what it says?
Yeah, to teach us to repeat.
To teach us to repeat. Rest be best. Rest be.
Quite right. Convince yourself of that if you can.
Hey. We're not going to get His Excellency in trouble, but if you were listening, Now, but with that, though, can I perhaps read this other message that came through on WhatsApp as it was shared with me? And I haven't had a chance to read it through in its entirety yet, so I'll be reading it for the first time.
Sure.
So it's good day to you and Mr. Harris. I have a question for you. Do you know if the government is putting anything in place for the small business owners since you're calling the private sector banks and landlords to be lenient? I'm a small business owner who currently is impacted. I own a barbershop and beauty salon, and now I have been ordered to close by the government for 2 weeks. Are they going to assist me by waiving my work permit fees that is due by the 20th of March this year?
I would encourage that person, as we mentioned earlier on, at 2 o'clock, the Minister of Commerce, the Honourable Joseph Hugh, will be attending the press conference, and he will be making a number of announcements in that regard. I know the Small Business Development Center is providing assistance to small businesses to help them with continuity planning during this difficult time. But certainly, I think my best advice would be to tune in at 2 o'clock or thereabouts to hear what the Honourable Minister has to say in that regard. I can say, though, that the Department of Commerce and Investment has closed their counter 1 hour earlier on each public day, which started on Wednesday, the 18th of March. The Trade and Business Licensing Board has cancelled a number of their regularly scheduled meetings. And DCI is unable to guarantee its usual express service for trade and business license applications. Certainly persons with questions like that caller, they can email info@dci.gov.ky for more information, as it may particularly relate to their individual trade and business license.
All right. Well, this is where, and as I look at a number of these, there are obviously concerns, as the people see. But I think, as the Honourable Premier and as you shared earlier, we need to monitor the situation. To the gentleman who advised us, be exercise some restraint with respect to the stockpile that we have now, not only for future, because we don't know, but also maybe to share with others. But equally, as the situation is dynamic, fluid, unfolding, whatever word we use, nobody knows exactly where it's going to go. We're going to prepare for the best. We're going to emerge, stronger, healthier, and better. But it's like a squall has made down. We pull it, from the shore. We just need to weather it for a while. Maybe we pull the sails down a bit. We tie the there are things we got to do, right?
Yes.
We will get there.
We certainly will get there.
We will get there.
As you know, the airports have been closed or will be closed for a period of 3 weeks, starting on Sunday, the 22nd of March, through until Sunday, the 12th of April of this year. Visitors whose permission to remain in the islands will expire between the 22nd of March and the 31st of March will not be required to submit a visitor extension application. Visitors will also not have to present themselves to a Customs or Border Control officer, and no action will be taken for permission that expires between those dates, again, the 22nd to the 31st of March. Work permit holders, who are departing, whose permission to continue working will also expire before the 22nd of March 2020, are not required to appear before a Customs and Border Control officer to submit their visitor extension application. Those persons can simply proceed directly to departing our islands prior to those airport closures. Any person, whether you have a visitor extension application or a work permit that expires after those dates, that is after the 31st of March, are still required to attend Customs and Border Control in the usual manner.
After the
After the 31st of March, those who are still employed but perhaps maybe laid off for a period of time, their business is closing or otherwise.
But the closure continues to the 12th of April.
12th of April, yes, sir.
Okay. We had, I tell you, Mr. Austin is forward thinking. I did not share these with you, so I do appreciate now you referenced it. Two other questions in relation to the airports and the like.
Yes.
And since you started that, trying to clarify the inbound flights from the UK. Can I, hopefully, I saw it, I read it, hopefully I understood and read it correctly.
Yes.
Paraphrasing the two messages that came in and put them together, because I think they both speak to the same issue. We understand that incoming flights for residents Thursday, tomorrow. But it would seem that from the UK, and then wanted to know from the UK only on through Sunday. Is that the case?
Yes, the incoming from the UK, particularly British Airways, will continue until Sunday, the 22nd of March. We recognize that we have, I think, either over 400, I think the number is 471 or closer to 500 students currently in universities in the United Kingdom that we're trying to get back home. Those parents who are electing to bring them home versus those who are electing to have their children and their young adults ride it out in the UK. But yes, all flights will be suspended on the 22nd of March. I know that there have been discussions at the cabinet level of maintaining an air bridge between the Cayman Islands and the United Kingdom, specific for emergency supplies or otherwise. That is something that I think is still ongoing, but that falls within the remit of the Honourable Premier and His Excellency the Governor. So I would encourage persons, again, not to panic. We will not be shut off from the outside world, but certainly, if necessary, we will have those provisions. Inter-island travel to the sister islands will also, it'll be suspended to anyone except residents. We're encouraging persons, if you don't live on the sister islands, don't travel to the sister islands. And I think the Premier made an adequate case for that yesterday in the press briefing when he quite correctly identified the sister islands in many cases as a retirement community, and therefore any unnecessary travel to the sister islands are putting our elderly citizens at risk, which again, we have a moral obligation to not do that.
Okay, so that's the scenario then. It may come in, but up until Sunday.
Up until Sunday.
That is, we'll see what happens after that.
That is where we are as we sit here today.
But it could change.
That may change. If it does change, announcements will be made at that point in time. But everyone should plan that the airport will close on the 22nd of March, inbound and outbound, to every jurisdiction until the 12th of April.
Okay. I'm going to pause and take a short break. Remember the 2 p.m. press briefing. When we come back, we are honored to continue discussing with MLA and Councillor, Mr. Austin Harris.
At Canine Resort and Spa, your dog gets the red carpet treatment. That's why people trust us and pets love us. Offering doggy daycare, boarding, training, and grooming services for any breed, size, or style. From head to tail, we'll make your dog smile.
Choose from 4 grooming packages, from the basic bronze package of a hydrobath, shampoo and conditioner, wash and blowout, to the platinum package including spa services like a doggy massage and berry facial. Canine will help your pet look picture perfect. Receive a loyalty card where your 6th grooming package is free. Limited availability.
Visit canineresort.com for details on grooming packages, doggy daycare, and resort services. Canine Resort and Spa, where the posh dogs go.
2020 means perfect vision. And if you have your sights set on driving a new hybrid, then the time is now to check out the new RAV4 and CHR. Hold up. Just 2 of the many hybrid models that Vamped is bringing to Cayman. Whether you're looking for a smoother and quieter way of driving or want a car that maximizes fuel efficiency while minimizing emissions, there are lots of ways a new hybrid from Vamped can make the difference in your life. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries without being plugged in. So focus your 2020 vision on a new hybrid from Vamped Motors, and we will see you through. Come to Vamped, home of the hybrid, located on Walkers Road.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
Imagine if we all practice safe driving. Imagine if we all refused single-use plastic. Imagine if we all turned off lights when not in use. We can all do our part in making Cayman Islands safer, cleaner, and greener. Together, we can achieve. Visit gov.ky/safer, cleaner, greener to learn more.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037, 949-8037. MLA Councillor Austin Harris joins us, sir. And we do have a caller.
Sure.
Welcome. You're on Talk Today. Oh, we had a call. Maybe that was a delivery for lunch.
Maybe it was. We're here.
Yeah, I mean, that was okay, Miss Norma will collect. I think Paul will pay.
There you go. I like how that sounds.
You and I can eat.
You and I will consume, yes, indeed. Indeed. I like that arrangement. I gotta come hang out with you more often.
Yeah, listen, but hold on now. That might infringe the standards in public life. They may accuse me of trying to let's try the further line, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, hello. Is it possible that Austin could explain why that you had to do a second test for the 20 people that got the first set of?
Yes,
Dr. Austin?
Yes, absolutely. As I understand it from chatting with Dr. Lee and Dr. Williams, whilst we have the ability to test and the available testing kits here in Cayman, it is a new test, and it is a very involved and comprehensive test. And certainly, as a precaution, we want to ensure that our local testing was done correctly. Whilst we are confident that the 20 cases that have come back negative will remain as such, we want to just I guess, double check our work, for lack of a better word, with someone else to make sure that, we covered all of the bases, that we didn't miss anything. It is a very involved process, and certainly as Dr. Williams alluded to, or Dr. Lee alluded to also yesterday, that as we do more of these tests, obviously the lab teams will become more proficient with their work, and therefore we can do more than, I think there are 20, we're doing batches of 20 at a time. Certainly as we become more proficient with this new testing model, we can obviously increase those amounts, but out of an abundance of caution, whilst we're confident that we followed the necessary and requisite procedures, we have sent those same samples over to CARFA just to confirm as a precautionary measure that we didn't miss anything. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Also, do you think it's possible that we will come to a time where we could just get the test done right here in Cayman and get the answer right here in Cayman?
Well, we presently can do that now. With the testing kits are made available. The tests are being conducted in the Cayman Islands, and results are generated anywhere between, I think, 12 to 36 hours after. So we have that ability now. We have just sent off the first batch, as I said before, just to confirm that we are doing all that we should do in that testing procedure. We are following the identified protocols, and we're doing it correctly.
Okay, and then the last one. Do you know how many kits are available for the Caymanians so we can take the test ourselves on the island? Do you have an idea?
Yes, there is. I think there were. I think in total about 450 to maybe 480 test kits that were received by the Cayman Islands initially. As you can certainly appreciate, the World Health Organization is distributing these test kits, and they're being distributed on a case-by-case or as-needed basis to countries that are more affected than others. For example, Jamaica, we see a pandemic situation. We see the Bahamas today confirming 19 cases, whereas in the Cayman Islands, we're still sitting at only one confirmed case. It may be determined that perhaps if the virus can be contained in our jurisdiction, that we don't see community transmission, there may not be the need for excessive testing. But certainly we're not at the point today where we can say we have 65,000 test kits and we're going to test all 65,000 members of our population, because frankly it's not necessary.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right.
You're very welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your call and your questions.
Mr. Harris, as you take time to explain, I guess it's, as you said, repeat, and through the repetition, we'll become cognizant of it.
Yes.
And to the callers, as we hear the press briefing at 2 o'clock, hopefully all affairs will lay, as things could potentially go to a direction that we see in other jurisdictions. It's even then more that we need to have the resolve, the good conscience, and the sense of consideration and civility to make sure that then we exercise even greater restraint in our movements on an individual voluntary basis, as opposed to having it to devolve like we've seen in other jurisdictions where there's curfews and martial law. Individual responsibility, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Individual responsibility, I think, is the best advice, which again, hold your corner, look after yourself, look after your family, use common sense, follow the guidelines of hand washing. Again, if you don't have the hand sanitizer, soap and water also still work. Do so frequently. Again, follow the guidance, hsa.ky/coronavirus. These things are updated regularly.
Yes, sir.
How to cope with home isolation, how to cope with anxiety, how to help children deal with the stress of isolation. All of these things are very real and occurring effects, if you will, of this present pandemic scare. But again, these guided notes are available.
Yes, sir. A couple of things from our WhatsApp, and sometimes we sort of get ahead of ourselves. In the interest of making sure we're all on the same page, NAU, for instance, we just say NAU, assuming Needs Assessment Unit, one of the agencies within government that helps those of us who may need assistance in certain ways, not just financial. CARFA, the Caribbean, is it CARPHA?
Yeah.
The Caribbean, what's it stand for again? Do you remember? Public Health Agency, I think it is.
I think that's...
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
CAR. So we apologize for that when we do use those acronyms.
I'm still getting used to acronyms. The government have an acronym for everything.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to, get all the acronyms
we got one
for
too,
local.
I don't know if we can say that just yet.
Probably not. Probably not.
All right. We also have a couple of other WhatsApp comments and questions. The Cayman Airways flights, when the aircraft in the airport is, come Monday. Are they be here? Are we putting them on the back? Miami? Where do we know where they're going to be housed?
I suspect, and again, this is only my personal opinion. I don't have that specific information, but I suspect the aircraft will be housed here.
Yeah, in our hangars.
In our hangars, yeah. Indeed. Because again, if there is need for emergency flights,
we have them.
We have them here, as opposed to being stuck in Miami, and Miami International Airport is closed.
That's a fair inference. I think the Honorable Premier, did say we have the resource in Cayman Airways that we should not overlook.
Yes.
So, can we read this series of questions from one of our listeners? Says, why aren't they stopping incoming tourists at this point and encouraging visitors on the island to leave? Why are they not using an online form? Should I stop to answer or just read them? Okay. Why are they not using an online form to obtain information for persons on tourist visas to get extensions, find out where they are staying, and get updates for their health insurance and health status? How will immigration know person's status after flights resume to ensure they leave the island if they are on a tourist visa, which has expired?
Some very good questions. Certainly,
I just read them, sir.
Yeah, certainly in terms of visitors, whether they're tourists or otherwise, obviously Customs and Border Control maintains a record of those persons who are visitors and still in the country. As they leave the country, obviously their systems are updated, so we have a pretty accurate count of visitors. Certainly we also have an accurate count of work permit holders. But obviously what we don't know is those work permit holders who may be either without a job, is it suspended, have they been terminated? Certainly any work permit holder who no longer has a job in the Cayman Islands is advised to leave before the 22nd of March. We also remind businesses that the labor law and the employment law is still very much in effect. It has not been suspended, so the rules regarding employment are still very much in effect. As it relates to the care and well-being of those employees, again, the first responsibility for employees is that of the individual company. And we encourage businesses to make provisions for your staff, particularly those who, again, if your business has to close for a period of time, those provisions are made available to your staff, whereby those persons, particularly work permit holders, you don't have that ability to make those provisions, then it's our encouragement that you perhaps consider canceling that work permit, sending that individual home, so that we can obviously, the resources in this country aren't infinite, and the government has made it clear time and time again that our first priority will be to our people, Caymanians and residents, and that is certainly what we will continue to proceed on as those guidelines.
All right, certainly appreciate your time, sir. Got the news, Mr. Fox. Apologize for asking on air.
That's fine.
The press briefing is probably going to be on time. Yes. It could be moments late. If it's late, we want to chat, and you can. What would you like to do, sir?
I think in the best interest of the listening audience, not obviously wanting to miss any parts of that press briefing, which could happen at any time now, I'll just bid you adieu.
Adieu?
Bid you farewell and adieu, my fair.
No. We're not going anywhere.
I just wanted to thank you, Sterling, for this opportunity to be with you this afternoon. Again, to the listening audience, do not panic. Provisions are being made. The country is in a good position, both from a healthcare standpoint, both from terms of merchandise, whether it be medical equipment, medical supplies, food needs. There's no need for the panic buying. Again, just pay close attention to the official notices of press briefings and the various websites, which I mentioned earlier on, hsa.ky/coronavirus. Follow the guidance notes. Hold your corner. Take care of yourselves and your family, and trust that your government is taking care of you.
Yeah, amen. Well, we'll pause and take our news, and as we continue to pray for our leadership, for each other, can I echo the sentiments of the honourable gentleman here, not just as an MLA, but as a stalwart in our community. Let's remember to share and share alike, be civil, be individually responsible. We will have the press briefing very, very shortly, and we will join that. So tell your friends and family, CIG TV or right here on Radio Cayman.
God bless you, Sterling, and God bless,
Amen.
Continue to bless these Cayman Islands.
Amen. Well, stay tuned for Radio Cayman.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on my island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news. Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
On the heels of government announcing the closure of airports for a period of 3 weeks starting this Sunday, March 22nd, officials at the Cayman Islands Customs and Border Control says to assist persons who will be departing the islands, the visitor extension process at CBC has been temporarily varied for visitors and work permit holders. The CBC says visitors whose permission to remain in the islands will expire between the 22nd of March 2020 to the 31st of March 2020 will not be required to submit a visitor extension application. Visitors, however, will not have to present themselves to a Customs and Border Control officer, and no action will be taken for permission that expires between those dates. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Financial markets tumbled again today as major stimulus plans failed to quell worries about the economic impact of the coronavirus. The Dow and S&P 500 fell more than 7% in early afternoon, triggering an automatic temporary halt to trade. The FTSE 100 index of top UK firms closed down 4%, with aerospace and travel firms among the hardest hit. And how Johnny Depp lost the top of his middle finger is proving key to a libel case he has brought against The Sun. The actor is suing publisher News Group newspaper, NGN, over a 2018 article that alleged he was violent and abusive towards his ex-wife Amber Heard. At a preliminary hearing today, the newspaper group said he sustained the injury during an alcohol and drug-addled rage against Miss Heard in 2015. But Depp claims his finger was fractured when she threw a glass bottle at him. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255. Let your voice be heard. And now, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks very much. And thanks again to MLA and Councillor Mr. Austin Harris for, joining us as part of the government. He was able to provide a direct sort of perspective. The press briefing, as you know, we're expecting it. It has been slightly delayed. It's now been postponed until 3 p.m. We will take it live. If you're fine with it, I'll be here until 2:30 unless they give me license to stay till 3. Well, that's fine too, but 2:30. So why don't we do some open line and you can call and share your thoughts. You might decide, hey, let's have some jokes. You might say, this is no time for laugh. Let's get serious. Well, what we want to do is to ensure that you have access to our studios and through that to the airwaves to share your thoughts, to provide your perspective to our listeners. 949-8037 or toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. You can WhatsApp 925-3261 and share your thoughts with us as well. And as we look at the whole sort of unfolding, evolving situation, I say it respectfully. I see that it's just that, words are important. No intent to inflame, nor to insult, nor to even be anything other than respectful. But, when we use words dynamic and fluid, let's interpret it in this context to understand that this thing is ever changing. And if you didn't realize that, those of us that have our children overseas at schools, the schools themselves were saying, and that's a very small body of people who trying to figure out what they should do from the official resources and information that they have. And sometimes they say, okay, we'll we'll do this, and then the next day, well, it's better that we do it this way because our responsible government agencies that are sort of talking about public health and welfare suggesting this. So those are changing. Can you imagine managing a country? So with that, let's be mindful. Now, equally, let's ensure that information that we hear and receive specifically from other sources that we can trust, that is credible. Trust but verify. And when our government says things, let's make sure too that we feel comfortable and confident in that information. And we do that by participating, by understanding, by engaging, by ensuring that that is truthful and credible. We can always verify as best as we can. This is a small community, and the mantra I think we all grew up with. Well, perhaps when I say all, maybe I think all in my age bracket. Share and share alike should be familiar to us. The sentiments that we've seen increasingly over the years, here and elsewhere, is that it's me, myself, and I. Everybody else for themselves. Not the way to survive, not the way to succeed, not the way to enjoy success. So let's not have that. But what do we do? Well, first off, do we have a call online? And when one pops in, we'll take it. So while we do that, let's consider this. If the reports globally are that we're seeing some reductions in numbers being reported previously from jurisdictions that were having higher numbers, if we're seeing people recovering fully, if we're seeing sort of a return to, just draw the analogy. After Ivan, the skies were darkened because there weren't these bright lights, which we called for and got and we loved because we were afraid of the dark, seemingly. We liked to have the path lighted as we moved about the place. And then we started to realize we could no longer see the sky, the beautiful stars that shone above. And we talked about light pollution. Interesting term. And then it was dark and we complained about it being dark. Then all of a sudden we started to appreciate, hey, wow, I hadn't seen stars before, or hadn't seen stars in a long time. Or I could only see stars if I went to, and what we say, remote places. And we would, just to see the stars. Well, is there a balance somewhere? So with this situation now, it is, without question, it is no joke, and it is with a heavy heart that there have been reported loss of life. So let's get that as best as we can so that is no longer the scenario. And we can, as we're told, and hopefully, we start to appreciate that there has to be a level of trust in systems, trust in, the people who operate the systems. And if there isn't, then we replace them. And then we improve ourselves so that we become in that position. And hopefully we develop the integrity. But that's over time. And so for the interim period, we can do a number of things. If we're self-isolating, then that's what we're doing. If we don't have to because we haven't traveled or never been exposed, but maybe it would be a good practice in the short term. What is 2 weeks? What is 3 weeks? What is 3 months in a lifetime? We minimize, if not significantly, sort of delay our encounters and interactions with others. Some of us have been told by friends and family who either are from Italy or have strong Italian connections that had they, in the initial days, not engaged in the banter and the party and the frolicking and the like, and going about life as usual. They're jovial, fun-loving people, and entertainment and libation and laughter and family gathering is the norm. Now, perhaps in hindsight we are told is 2020. Well, perhaps if they had done less or hadn't done it to the extent, maybe it would be different. But even if it isn't, what if we are now willing to employ that strategy here? So we're not out and about. Not to discourage social gatherings. If you know me, you know that I'd rather meet you in person than call you on telephone. But I'd rather call you on telephone than send you some message. At least you can hear a voice. But in the interim, maybe we just delay that gathering. Now, come Sunday evening, 11:59 p.m., the Premier has announced that some measures need to be taken. That includes, restaurants only going to deliver and take out, so we can't dine in. Bars and we can't have those things. Well, for some of us, that may be good, that may be welcome. For others, it may be long overdue. But in the interim, even though it's not going to be disallowed, why not start that practice now? Okay, you own a business, you say, well, I can't have that last sale. Well, if something else worse happens, that money may be good for those you leave behind, but there'll be a little value to you. Maybe it might be, I don't know. But in addition to that, while we are home, can we stay home if we don't have to move about? And while we're moving about, let's do so civilly. Consideration for this. We go to the phones. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
My good lady, how are you this afternoon?
I'm very grateful.
If you don't mind me saying publicly, I always enjoy hearing you and listening to what you have to share. Sometimes,
really? Okay.
Yes, well.
All right. Well, let me share this. I've been very disciplined and just got myself locked away. Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I don't mind saying this publicly. I am in the high-risk category because of one issue. And then I wasn't even given thought to the other issue until, funny enough, people thought about me and called me and said to me, you're high risk because of,
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I never thought of that. And then last night I got an email from the organization with some very, very good advice, saying you have to take care of yourself, you have to be careful, and so and so. And I said, wow, look at that, But anyway, that's not what I called it.
Mm-hmm.
Since you kind of identified me, I don't mind saying that.
Well, I hope I didn't embarrass you. No,
No, not at all. You can't embarrass me. You know that.
I can try now.
That's not possible.
I hear you, Mom.
But I just to add to that, I just keep thinking, about this whole thing. And I mean, I'm no expert, and I'm not saying this to pick on anyone because obviously, people cannot think of everything at the same time. And, when you're stressed and all that kind of thing, things slip your mind. But I'm in my mind, 50 people gathering is too much for Cayman. I mean, America could do that because they could space out on a football field and they could be 8 feet, 10 feet apart. We can't do that here. Now, even they have decreased the number to 10. But let me tell you what's on my mind. And I have to apologize because I didn't tune into the show till late. So it may have been said already. I keep thinking about these flights coming in. And those, well, it doesn't matter where they're coming from, but especially those now coming in from the UK, because I think we've seen now, really how much it's spreading there and the measures they're taking. I am wondering if when these flights arrive, and I mean, it don't really matter to me where they're coming from, as long as they're inbound, are they allowing these people to walk through the airport as normal? Because I know they're saying they have to be in quarantine, but are they allowing them to walk through the airport? I mean, and be processed as if it was nothing wrong, and then they're just in quarantine once they leave the airport? Because I'm just here thinking they could set up something different and deal with those people. Don't allow them in the airport terminal at all.
Oh yeah, how do they move them about the place without
And I'm also wondering, because this has been on my mind forever, are they cleaning the planes, the trays, wiping down the seat belts, the armrests, disinfecting the planes? There's no one that is going to convince me that this thing is not airborne. I've said that from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the experts are now backing off from that it's only contagious by droplets. Nothing can spread that quickly, People aren't coughing and sneezing on the people that got it. You could step outside your house and get it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that's why I took the decision, to be extremely careful. Plus, I have OCD, so I laughed and said, everybody laughs at me with it, but I guess if they were all like me, it would be all okay. But I just wondered whether, there was anything put in place for all of these arrivals. And because I know a lot of children are coming home especially from the UK, and, that's, been on my mind for quite some time.
It's, as you share, it's something that we need to consider. And the whole idea of them, sort of, with the planes, when I say them, whoever's...
the passengers.
Yeah, and the cleaning of spaces, it's refreshing, I think, if that's the right word to use, that to see people now doing what some of us took for granted. Wash your hands before you eat, wash your hands after, like brushing your teeth, right? If you're able to, you can. Some of us do it. People are now cleaning places that in the past, they were neglecting. And I say this, and I understand. Water is a precious resource that some of us really value, some of us maybe take too much liberty. But remember, it was not long ago that the streets of Georgetown used to be clean very early in the morning. When we came in, it was like, overnight somebody did it. Well, now, it's not the people, it's not the increase in people, it's that we no longer have that sense of cleanliness. I don't know. There's only if we have, what is it? Only when something affects you that you start to think about it.
Yeah, but I mean, as I say, this is something that I don't think anybody should downplay.
Right.
I think that you should pass the buck with this. Like, for example, the airport. I'm wondering, because I had traveled recently, I didn't see this happening. And, I mean, the world had already been notified that this virus was out there. Now, it hadn't reached the Caribbean yet, and it wasn't in many of the United States yet either. But nonetheless, it was out. And I traveled. I'm a very observant person.
Definitely.
Did not see anybody wiping down anywhere, any counters, nothing. The plane was not being wiped down. And, I mean, I'm already a scornful person. I already have my wipes, things like that. And I'm wondering if now that, everyone is more aware of it, we do have a janitorial service at the airport. I mean, are they now practicing that after each person has checked in, wipe the counter down? You go to the supermarket, and like I said, I'm not picking on anybody because obviously everybody can't think of everything. The cashiers are now wearing gloves, but they're not changing their gloves. They're handling money from you, and then they're handling my card. So they're transferring. The counter is not being wiped down. I put my stuff there. They run it through, and it's not being wiped down. You put your stuff there, and the next person comes along. The same thing is being done. I mean, it's good that they're wearing gloves to protect themselves.
Right.
But even at the airport, the security people, they wear gloves too, but they don't change them.
It would almost be, as I listen to you, it would almost be akin to the food service worker making your sandwich, for instance. Put on the gloves, gets the bread, puts the meat and whatever else you ordered on the sandwich, then goes, wraps it up, takes your cash, and then keeps the gloves on, goes back and makes the next sandwich.
That's right, exactly. And I mean, another thought that came to my mind is, obviously we want the supermarkets to be open. We want everyone to be able to get everything that they want or need. But I also believe that they should police those supermarkets and do not allow a pile of people to go in there at one time. Maybe do 10 or 15 people at a time. When they have left, then allow the other ones to go in. The banks are doing that, and the banks have changed their hours. At least I know some of the branches, they are doing, like on shifts now, and they're only allowing a certain amount of people in the bank at one given time. Because I even suggested to the branch manager that maybe they should ask their customers, try to discourage them right now from doing cash transactions, because as we know, even without coronavirus, we were always told how much germs money has in it. So I don't want to offend anyone, but I'm going to say this very publicly because I've been doing it. If I've had to go anywhere, I take my own paper with me. If I have to grab the door handle, I have my paper to do it with. I have my Lysol wipes and so on, my Lysol spray. If I have to use my debit card, I am wiping it off before I take it from you and put it back in my bag. And if I have to enter my PIN number, I'm not doing it with just my naked hand. I'm doing it with paper. And maybe these are little things people don't think about because nobody's wiping off the keypad. They're taking it, turning it around to you. You use it, then you come along, I use it, then you come along, you're doing the same thing. But no one is wiping that down. And I think people just need to give thought to these little things. It's just like your phone. You got to keep wiping that down too. Your remote controls, especially if you live with other people. And even if you live alone, the minute you go out, you have to sort of do it all over again because you don't know what you might have brought home.
As I listen to you, though, I'm mindful that there are people, like, I don't want to say us, but there are people out there who, to some extent, employ those practices, but then the surrounding people will look and label, OCD or this or that, yet they're just practicing good hygiene.
Right.
And, a friend of mine traveled for the first time to China some years ago. And it was customary for everybody to be moving about the place with the mask and the use of gloves and personal safety sort of equipment were, that's what personal protection was the order of the day, right? Now it may look strange because that's not the norm that you know in your society, but is it a bad practice? Here we are now faced with this pandemic and it's becoming the new norm, as it were. But where is the exercise of good hygiene and common sense and civility?
Right.
Ordinarily. I'm hoping that by you sharing, people will start to appreciate. I'll give an example, and this isn't to offend anybody, but this is to show sometimes that you have to have, like you, to be mindful and very confident and not worrying about people because you're doing the right thing. In our studio, we've always practiced wiping down the equipment and cleaning the studio. Because we thought it was good for you, but it was also obviously good for us as well.
Exactly.
And I had a guy call just the other day. He said, we joked about it before. He would make comments, when he would come into the studio, and he's not that frequent of a visitor, so to speak. And now he's like, man, thank you for all that. I said, well, it's Miss Paulette, Miss Norman, this is how we do things here. I say that to maybe ask us that it's a practice that we can employ, but can we do this now forever and a day going forward from here on out so that we do these things, the non-cash transactions, for instance, the abilities to ensure personal safety, personal distances. Some of us love to be right up to next to someone when we're talking. Others will be like, if you're that close to me, you better have a ring on my finger.
Well, even at this time, that space should be respected too.
Well, I have my personal space, and I don't like it when you come into that. And some people have been offended, but too bad.
Well, as I said, I am sorry, and then I'm not sorry because I shouldn't have to apologize for trying to keep myself safe and at the same time keeping you safe.
Yeah, well.
If any of the measures I have taken, if that has offended anyone, like I said, maybe they should look at what I'm doing and practice that as well. And I don't know if I mentioned this or not. I was wondering if they are going to deplane the passengers coming in from the flights through the airport terminal, maybe they might want to consider doing a certain amount of passengers at a time, which would be less people in there, at the same time, give them a chance to wipe down the immigration counters and stuff wherever they've been before you allow the next 10 or 15 people to get off and come through. Yes, it will be a longer process, but if we are trying to keep this virus from entering the Cayman Islands, then we are all going to have to accept that, we, as you say, we're going to have to just tolerate the new norm for a short-term period. And at least at the end of it, if, let's just say at the end of April, we don't have any more here. And we say, well, it's because we took drastic steps. Yeah, it might have peed people off for a little while, but wouldn't you appreciate that at the end of April, you can pretty much say we are virus-free?
Well, that's the thing, you see. It is not just, well, you know what, you say it best. So, in summary, and as you share with us, two things. One, respectfully, is there another way you can share with us that as a people, a little more, I keep stressing this, a little more civility, a little bit more consideration, a little bit more willingness to share, like, so that we don't potentially get to that point where we've seen other places, in other circumstances, that people no longer look after each other. Instead, they are in a greedy, selfish tone. I'm not expecting that here in Cayman. Honestly, I'm not expecting that. But could you help us to maybe encourage each other to, be your brother's keeper and look after one another in a safe, civilized way?
Well, as I told you, I am only leaving home if it's absolutely necessary. And I'm calling myself the health police. Because if I see somebody too close up on me, I'm saying, excuse me, that's not 3 feet, that's not 6 feet. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
Yep.
And I don't have to go out of my house to catch a cold. Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So if with this now going around and I have to leave home, as I said, I have to be more than careful. I had to go to the pharmacy there the other day, and I was keeping my distance from everyone. And because of that, everybody was cutting in front of me in the line. I said, no, I'm sorry. I said, I am respecting people's distance. I'm in the line.
Yeah.
And it's behind me. But, people are just going about this ordinarily, not taking anything into consideration, that you can't be breathing down the back of people.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be, you don't even ask, well, are you in line? I mean, it has been announced, about what do you call it, social distancing, whatever it is they're calling it. I call it personal space.
Yeah, but this is it. And I really appreciate you, and especially you at this time, spending this extended time with us, because I think we need to be mindful. The other day on the air, I was talking about us being so busy that we no longer have time to enjoy things.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't saying this to point fingers at anybody. I was saying that me, myself, what was the last time, if we were to individually just self-assess, when was the last time we sat and went out in our garden that we love, or went into the kitchen, experimented with a recipe that we love, or went to the beach, or went fishing, or rode a bike, or whatever that thing is, just to smell the roses, as it were. Right. And when we do, is it because something really bad has happened? We've got a bad diagnosis, we've heard bad news, or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. And then it comes from the perspective that we're so busy, our employers expect us, maybe we are the sole provider in the household, maybe we're the sole proprietor, so therefore we need to be busy because I got to pay the bills, got to make money, we understand that. And I say that to say that I'm confident, I'm trusting, but I'm very, very confident, a very optimistic person, but in this instance even more so, that what we're going to see in this community after all is said and done, that we're not only going to be a beacon to the world, but we're going to be reminded of what made us who we are, the resilience, the resolve, and we're going to see a kindness, a lovingness, a gentleness, a spirit of unity and cooperation. For instance, right, our banks, and I'm as guilty of this, if not more so, on beating up on the banks, because I think to date we've looked at them as robber barons, right? I said, not even half an hour ago, that the banks, interest rates go down, and your interest rates on your savings and your little bit that you get quickly goes down, but your mortgages take forever, right?
Right.
I think we're going to see a new mindset from the business community, I want them to be profitable, because if they're profitable, they can invest, they can pay bonuses, they can pay dividends, they can pay salaries, they can hire people, they can provide scholarships. We want them to be profitable, right? But we also want us as a people to have conscience.
Right.
And I think we're going to see that. I think you're going to find that people are going to appreciate that there's more than just a paycheck. And when you get a paycheck, there's more to your wealth than what you have in a bank account, or how much land you own, or whatever check you can write to show that you're rich and that you can support some charity. People can actually roll up their sleeves and come over to you and say, man, I know you're struggling to hang this door, because they might be like me. I want a door hung. I call my brothers because they know the hammer from the screwdriver. I can pass it. No, they're probably embarrassed. No, I know the hammer and the screwdriver. The hammer is the one with the No, just kidding. I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to honestly see people who have returned to our spirit. We might even see something that idea of these family values, people spending time with their families again. You know, not having to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean...
Remember, we have to remember the gatherings mightn't necessarily be a good thing.
Right.
You know, especially when somebody in the house is working. You know, because you know where you've been, but you don't know where the others have been.
Yep.
And this cross-contamination is what people need to be very mindful of.
Yes, ma'am.
Very, very mindful. And what I've been saying to the people I'm in touch with, you know, please apply common sense.
Yeah.
Imagine that it was the flu going around and you didn't want to get it. What would you do to avoid that flu?
Same thing.
Imagine it is something you are allergic to. How would you protect yourself from being exposed?
Right. Well, I think
you have to apply
common sense.
Common sense.
Yeah. Well,
home, you know, before you come in your house, you clean your door handle, you know, wipe it off. Before you go inside, get to the bathroom immediately, wash your hands before you touch anything.
Yes, ma'am.
Bring your shopping bags home from the supermarket and put them up on your counters.
Yep.
Put them down on the floor.
Common sense. Exactly. All right. Well, listen, thank you very, very much for sharing with us this afternoon. And like I said at the outset, I always enjoy, you know, sometimes.
I got your late birthday message, and I said, yes, I suppose someone must have called in and said belated happy birthday to me. That's the only reason you remembered.
Oh, you told me on the... No. I listen now.
I mean, you sent it like a week later.
Yeah, you listen, I remembered it from the day before. You're one of the few I remember. The problem is, you know what? I take back all I said about that's kidding. You be safe, okay?
I did write and say thank you.
You did. And in your honor, I did enjoy an extra piece of cake, you know. I thought it was your birthday, so I could enjoy it too.
Oh, I wonder who served that to you now.
You can't kiss and tell, you know. No.
Okay, well, I mean, there's so many of us that keep that birthday. You could have gotten it from anyone or like the 10 people that I know.
Yeah, you see?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Well, listen.
You must have been special because you didn't give me any.
Listen, I'm special. I'm from West Bay, you know. I guess so are you, right?
Yeah. No, I'm not from West Bay.
I'm just teasing you.
I know. No, but my mother came from West Bay.
But you're not? Okay.
But I'm not.
Okay. All right.
I'm a Georgetowner.
There you go. I know. But
anyway, keep safe.
Yes,
keep
ma'am.
Clean. And do not be afraid to say the little things to people. No one should be offended at this time. They should all be saying thank you. Please, I didn't think of... If somebody got something to tell me that can help me, please, by all means, tell me.
Well, listen. Thank you again.
No one should be offended if you point out something to them this time.
All right. Well, blessings to you, okay? And to all... All right. To that listening to all of us, thank you all very much for being a part of it. Just a quick reminder, 3 p.m. The press briefing has been just slightly delayed. It's now scheduled for 3 p.m. We will take it live here, God's willing. CIG TV will also carry it live as well. We invite you to be a part of a continued discussion and dialogue here on Radio Cayman on all of our shows. And come back tomorrow for more Talk Today, right after the midday news and midday meditation. With the greatest respect, I crave a second more of indulgence as the caller before, as the councillor and MLA, Mr. Harris, as His Excellency the Governor, as the Honourable Premier shared. Social distancing, personal space. proper personal hygiene, washing our hands, things that our parents taught us, that we were reminded of. Let's practice them, but even at a more sort of intensified pace. If you're not offended by this, and if you think it's inappropriate or improper, then let me know. But I believe it would be good sense. Come this Sunday, hey, we're not going to be gathering in the bars for a while. Maybe start that practice now. You don't want to be sick and can't celebrate going forward. Christmas is coming up. My birthday is coming up. DJ Fox's birthday is coming up. When we can get back to that, we'll be able to very much enjoy those celebrations. So for now, let's just keep our distance, do our part to make sure we are safe, and by so doing, others are safe as well. Again, don't panic buy. If you have a number of items and you find down the road that your neighbor, friend, co-worker, or even a stranger, could use some, share and share alike. Easier said than done. Sadly, there are many of us who are unethical, unscrupulous, just scoundrels. My prayer is that we'll change our ways before something drastically happens, and we'll find that it's much easier, much more enjoyable, much better to share and share alike. A smile takes a lot less effort than anything else. So lift our hands to help each other, and we'll find that we'll get through this much better, and we'll emerge much stronger, much more unified. Well, until tomorrow, my good friends, be blessed.